in March. So if we don't have our flights canceled.
Where are you headed?
We have a house in Hawaii.
Okay.
We usually spend the winters there, but with all this COVID and stuff, it's just.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so we are officially live and recording, and our attendees have joined us, and we are good to go to start to reconvene the proceeding on case file 14-C-PC-21.
Great, thank you,
So,
Megan.
Good, quick question, though, may I, Madam Chair? So Megan, right, that there are, this is other people are listening. They're not panelists like us, right? Because we're not taking any oral testimony. So there could be easily people watching, right? That just, they're not on our screen. Right. Okay.
Yes, there are no other panelists besides the Planning Commission and then staff and council. There are attendees, but they are not participating within the proceeding tonight.
Okay. Great. Just want to make sure everyone understood, right, that there's other interested parties listening. They're just not panelists and they won't be participating tonight.
Great, thank you. All right, welcome one and all to the February 14th, 2022 Lincoln County Planning Commission meeting. It is Valentine's Day, and I want to wish you all a very happy Valentine's Day. I'm sure this is not your preferred place or your preferred subject for Valentine's Day. But in any case,
may I interrupt and make a motion that we don't schedule any more Valentine's Day meetings?
Don't want to get
Terry on it.
Terry doesn't want to get into trouble, so we can look into that. We'll do that also at the end of the meeting with Planning Commission concerns. This time, let's call the roll. Megan, are you going to do that?
I will be doing that. Madam Chair.
Here.
Commissioner Fox.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Kier.
Kier. Scarlett's here.
Thank you. Commissioner Lambrecht.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Spolnick.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Cutler. Appears absent. Commissioner Stratton.
Here.
Thank you very much. And Commissioner Bugenhagen.
Good evening. I am here.
Thank you very much.
Great. Looks like we have a quorum. Before we begin what's on our agenda tonight, is there any concerns that are not on tonight's agenda? I think that only staff can see that. Anyone, any way of communicating that? Hearing none. Tonight, we are reconvening a live virtual electronic proceeding on case file 14-C-PC-21 to consider a request by Schooner Creek Transfer Incorporated, Lon French agent, for a conditional use permit to expand the operating characteristics and hours of operation of an existing solid waste transfer station known as Schooner Creek Transfer Station on property zoned IP, that's planned industrial. The applicant is proposing construction of a new 35-foot tall, approximately 14,000 square foot steel transfer building with an 80 square foot widening of the existing, an 80 square foot office, widening of the existing approach at 246 South Anderson Creek Road to accommodate a 25-foot wide self-haul route, 12-foot wide self-haul inbound and 12-foot self-haul outbound. Installation of a gate, installation of inbound and outbound scale house and scale, construction of a stormwater facility to accommodate additional impervious surfaces, construction of 16,800 square feet of asphalt paving adjacent to the new building proposed, development of a self-haul scale path, construction of a bunker and hardscape for inerts, gravel, and dirt disposal, and development of trailer storage area for 2 trailers approximately 30 by 60 feet. The applicant is also requesting to expand the existing permitted operating hours for the transfer station from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, to 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. To just go over the proceedings so far, the initial virtual hearing was on January 10th, 2022. At that time, the hearing was closed, but the record was left open until January 24th for new evidence, and then until January 31st for rebuttal, and then February 7th for the final argument. At this time, I'm asking planning commissioners to disclose any ex parte communications and any bias or conflicts of interest regarding this application since we last convened.
And for the record, this is Jerry Herbage, and I know that the record is closed and that the hearing is closed, but I think it's appropriate that if there has been an ex parte contact, that we get it on the record. So it would be opened for the limited purpose of announcing that, and then we'll go through subsequent procedures on how we'll handle that. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, anybody have anything to declare? Any ex parte? Yes,
Yes.
Shaylin?
Yes, I requested a copy of the original CUP on the transfer, and that was provided to me by the planning department.
All right, and does that have any influence over your decision tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so I think at this point, is there any other ex parte before we get into how we handle that?
Well, it just if I
Right.
could,
Go ahead.
Jerry Herbage again for the record. In terms of Mr. Ann, when you talked about you had sent to you the original CUP, is that right?
Yes.
But basically, you said that it would affect your decision. Well, basically, we're not there yet. But when you make a decision, then that's a separate issue, ex parte and bias. Do you feel that you could be fair and impartial in making your decision?
Absolutely.
Okay. So in other words, you receive the information outside the record, you've announced it, but you feel that you could be fair and impartial.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.
So if it's okay, Madam Chair, I'd like to
Yes.
go over a couple of procedural issues that have occurred since we last convened. And the first would relate to this ex parte contact, and then I'd like to talk briefly about the final argument.
Okay.
The final argument that was submitted. So it's not unusual at all in land use matters that procedural glitches come up. And so I first thing I want to emphasize is that it's not unusual, and that's under these circumstances, that's why staff is here. And generally, if a procedural glitch happens and it's recognized, it's fixable, it's curable, we would say, okay? And so we have an announcement of an ex parte contact, and the law says that if an ex parte contact happens, it needs to be announced and people need to be able to respond to that. The second thing that came up is, remember, Madam Chair, you went through the timeline, and there was a timeline until February 7th for final argument. And when staff saw the final argument that was submitted, it appeared that there was some new evidence that was submitted. And I think, you know, it's kind of a technical thing that not everybody understands. I think our planning commission members here do understand that argument means a statement of my side should win, or, you know, the conditional use permit should be granted for these reasons, all of which are in the record. But the way it looked like the final argument was submitted, it transcended that, and it looked like new evidence was received. So that's a second procedural glitch. And for this reason, I'm going to ask tonight that we do not deliberate, that the planning commission not deliberate to reach a decision, but rather that we leave the record open what I'm gonna ask is that a motion be made to reopen the record for an additional 7 days. But this is very limited. It would be for rebuttal of new evidence presented by the applicant in its argument. And then also that 7 days would be allow the parties, if they wish, to address the ex parte contact that was put on the record tonight. And then we would allow an additional 7 days for the applicant to submit final written argument with no new evidence. And I think if we do that, then this would fix the procedural glitches. I think that, Madam Chair, you will probably want to talk about this, but I believe that we have an extension of time from the applicants that will help us take care of these things and stay on track within acceptable timelines that we could meet. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of the Planning Commission members might have. I understand that the parties to this case are like following it, and that this is available simultaneously, but they don't have participant status, but they will have, with the motion, they'll be able to submit in writing within the 7 days. And again, it may be that there isn't anything that a particular party might want to submit because it's very narrow, but you're welcome to. Any of the parties would be welcome. And that is rebuttal of new evidence presented by the applicant in the argument. And then the second thing is if anybody wants to say anything about the ex parte contact. But to the extent that we don't follow these rules, we're going to create additional procedural matters and additional delay. So my message to everyone would be to follow, the protocol. But I'd be happy to answer any questions to the Planning Commission at this time.
All right, thank you, Jerry. I just wanted to make it clear that no one, applicants or opponents have asked for this. This is, even with them not asking, this is the course of action that needs to be taken. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We're recommending that we do that to cure the procedural issues. That can come from the Planning Commission and from staff. I mean, it's perfectly acceptable that a motion be made to do what I'm suggesting. And then at the end, we would need a motion for another date to reconvene that hopefully would be convenient to the Planning Commission. But you're right, it did not come from a party, and staff went through sort of the procedures to date. As I said, it's not unusual that there be glitches, and we found 2 glitches, and we'd like to take care of it.
Great, thank you very much. Should we also at this time, would staff just go through a little laundry list of what has been received since that last hearing? And also for the record, I just wanted to state that I was not present at that hearing, but I have listened and watched the YouTube video, which was riveting, and went through all the things. So I'm very up to date on tonight's material. But would someone from staff like to go on talk about what has been come in since?
Well, Madam Chair, Misty's got her hand up.
I just had a question. So the past report that was requested, was that not sent to the rest of the council or commission?
I'll pop in here because what Shaylin did, and she was, everything she did was well-meaning, and she was just trying to, understand everything that was going on. And so, the sequence of events are very, very simple. She contacted us. She requested a copy of the original conditional use permit that was from years ago, probably because it was referenced in some of the letters that went back and forth. So I think Shaylin, right, you can, if you're more than happy to chime in here, but she was just trying to, in effect, inform herself of, reading the materials. But when she did that, and when our staff, Megan, sent her the copy of the conditional use, just being helpful, then as we began to understand that had happened, then from a staff perspective, we went, wait a minute, that the record was closed and we shouldn't have been out of it. And so
That was new material at that point. Is what
yeah,
you're
yeah.
saying.
And that's
and
where,
nobody else got
we made the mistake, and it's no, it's one of these things where it hasn't really happened. I was on the planning commission, so I was kind of like, when I heard that it happened, it was like, huh? And I didn't even think for a minute that was wrong, but also Shaylin thought it would be helpful for others to see. And at that point, we really started, it was like, whoa, wait a minute. We actually, because of, and a lot of this has to do with the electronic hearings, right? We're trying to get through in a certain way. So we spotted that what was in effect an error, and it was all well-meaning and on everybody's perspective. And so we turned around and we've had conversations, which I had a good conversation with Shaylin about it. And of course we let the applicants know. That's why, and of course they know, because they've already consented to allow for that extra 60 days, because we have these statutory deadlines, right? That when we receive an application, we're we call it the shot clock. We have only so many days, 150 days from the beginning, from receiving an application to having it play through the whole process. So we also contacted Tina and Lon French and went into depth, and there's like, all right, this is what happened. And then, oh, by the way you phrased your final rebuttal, that could also be perceived as entering new arguments. And so together we, and with Jerry's help, in effect, we said, well, here's the remedy. We can go ahead and, have basically reopen. That's what we're doing tonight. And that's what the suggestions are. And so it's also all been transparent. Please, Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah. So, but getting back to what I think Misty's asking about the former conditional use permit.
Okay.
That is, we did not all get that. This is a new hearing. And so it didn't need to be submitted in order to do this hearing. But I understand, you can understand maybe wanting to see that, but there's a time and a place that could have been made available. And once the hearing was, once it was closed, we shouldn't have gotten that. Does that answer your question, Misty?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, great.
Yep. That was right. It could have, for all intents and purposes, we could have included in an original staff report. Sort of like you could see a big progression of events, but the fact that it was provided later it wasn't what was provided. It was provided after the record was closed, type thing that created the ex parte contact.
And Misty, I did request, I think what started a lot of the questioning of this was I sent a message to Megan and to Anno that asking if we should submit that to the rest of the commissioners for informational purposes. And that was when they went, oh, no.
Yeah. And so Jerry, again, and I think everybody's getting to the point, and Ms. Bobbitt addressed that, is the importance of the record is that it be standardized. So in other words, the decision that you make is based on the same record that was there for everyone to submit something, during the period of time. Nothing comes in after the record is closed. And there could be some issues about the prior CUP because you're making your decision eventually in this case based on the current criteria and not necessarily some things that were in play some years ago. So the important point is for everyone to be working from the same record.
Right. Thank you. That's
Thank you, Jerry. That was very helpful. Right. That's the key point. Everybody's got the same stuff. We're same hymnal on. And then of course, what you do with it is your business in your deliberations, but everybody's got the same stuff.
Right. Okay. Anyone else need any clarification about that at this point?
I do have one. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Ms. Bobbitt. Did I understand your question that you wanted the staff to indicate on the record what was submitted during the open record period? Was that your
Yes,
question?
sir.
Because I don't think it
Yeah.
did get answered. But,
Right,
okay.
just a quick inventory of, I think I counted a couple from the applicant and 4 from people opposed, but if someone wants to make a list of what came in during the open period, that would be helpful. Would Megan, John, or Anno care to do that?
I'm able to do that, Madam
Great.
Chair.
Thank you, Megan.
Sure. So since the record closed, we have received the following written testimony.
Just a minute, before the record closed, right? Why don't you go over what was received during the 2-week period after the hearing was closed, but the record was left open? That
I'm
2-week
sorry, yes.
period, the 1-week period after that, and the 1-week period after that.
Yes, thank you very much, Jerry, for clarifying that. We received 1 letter in opposition from last name Wojcik on January 21st, 2022. We received a second letter of opposition from last name Martin on January 24th, 2022. We received a second letter from last name Heiberg on January 23rd, 2022. And we also received a third letter in response to the existing record from last name Martin on January 31st, 2022. We also received from the applicant an additional applicant submission on January 24th, 2022. And then the applicant's final written argument on February 7th, 2022.
Great, terrific. And that was all available on the web, and I trust everyone had an opportunity to go over that. Okay. So Councillor Herbage, is there what other procedural issues at this point before we discuss motions going forward? Is there anything else we need to talk about?
On your outline, I'd probably go over point 7.
Okay.
And then go to 8. I think that we're okay. And I appreciate you.
Great, thank
Thanks.
you. Okay, so at this point, as we were indicating, the applicant has agreed to extend the 150-day time limit for this conditional use permit application with Lakeland County, case file 14 CPC 21, as provided in ORS 215, section 427, subsection 5, for an additional 60 days or until June 1st, 2022. So that gives us a little time, because what we need now at this point in time is a motion to reopen the record for an additional 7 days for rebuttal of new evidence presented by the applicant in the argument. That would be the February 7th submission. And for parties to address the ex parte contact if you wish, and then allow another 7 days for the applicant to submit final written argument with no additional new evidence. Is that correct?
That is correct. It may be good if the motion is made that we use actual dates for the 7 and 7. And generally we ask that matters be submitted by 5 p.m. I mean, that's up to you. You could put in a different,
Right.
but so right now we're on Valentine's Day, the 14th. So it seemed like the first date may be the 21st for submittal of those limited items. And then
The first 7.
the first 7 would be the 21st, and the final argument without new evidence would be the 28th. And both at 5 p.m. would be the recommendation.
Okay.
So
All
then,
right.
again, Jerry, the second 7 would only be if the Frenches choose to provide
Rebuttal.
further statements, right?
No, what the final 7, let's use the right terminology.
All right.
It is true that they can waive it. They do not have to submit argument if they don't want to, but the law allows them to do that. But we use the term argument. Argument means they feel that this conditional use permit should be granted for these reasons. All the reasons are based on the record. There's nothing new. It's just, look at what happened on, or what we submitted on such and such a date, or during the first oral hearing, we said this, and this is why we think we should win, so to speak. It's not anything new. It's just we should win because that's what argument means.
Right. And that's the second of the 2 dates. The first 7 days is for rebuttal of any new evidence or in regards to the ex parte contact by any party. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct. And that when we say in regards to the new evidence that was brought up in the argument they submitted, only that.
Okay. So, commissioners, I'm sure that is crystal clear. And that
All right,
somebody
And
Yeah.
that's why we're spending so much time, instead of just taking a motion and everybody going home. It's like, we really want everyone listening and all of us to understand, because I know what we had to do as staff to try to make sure, okay, it's not a big deal. Thank God we got these remedies, but we really need to know, all right, that first 7 is for that. And then the other part is only really for this and only to do that. So we don't end up in another situation where we've got to kick this can down the road anymore.
Right.
Yeah, and just so people know, if someone doesn't follow the rules on that, one remedy for staff and the planning commission is just to disregard it. So for instance, in the first 7 days, if someone just throws out all kinds of new stuff that doesn't relate to the new evidence in the applicant's final argument that they submitted, one option is simply to not receive it into the record. And again, if the final argument isn't really final argument, one option for the planning commission is to not consider that. So again, I want to strongly urge all of the parties to follow the rules on that.
Jerry,
Yes.
quick question. Does that now mean that the rest of the commissioners would have access to that CUP, the original CUP, or does that just go away?
No. So that we make the decision, so the planning commission makes the decision solely on the record. No one should be considering the initial CUP as part of these proceedings, okay?
Okay,
And
great.
so as I understand it, it was not sent out to the other members.
It
So
wasn't.
No.
Right.
was not. And
It was
so
not.
we will not have the planning commission look at that. Because that would be in itself a concern. It'd be another ex-party contact. So we don't want that.
Okay.
Great. All right, at this time, does anyone have this motion all laid out and ready?
After all those delays and explanations, right?
Right.
Well, I'll try it since
Good.
it's awful quiet out there.
I could see you were ready.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. I'll probably mess it up. The 2 dates that we're talking about are the 21st and the 28th, and I want to clarify first that we're talking about February. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, a motion says that we have to reopen the record to accept additional new evidence until 5 p.m. on February the 21st.
Okay.
Let's
So
stop right
let
there
me use
first.
the exact language.
Yeah,
Actually, could you read? I'm not sure if everybody got an
They
outline
didn't.
of a proposed. Why don't you go ahead and go through that motion again, if you would, and
okay.
Madam
Let me
Chair.
read. Okay, Terry, let me just read what I have down, just so it's clear, and then you can remake the motion of what council has recommended. So the record would be open for the additional 7 days, February 21st, for rebuttal of the new evidence presented by the applicant in its argument. So that was the 2-7 document. And for parties to address the ex parte contact if they so wish. Then allow an additional 7 days, that's February 28th, for the applicant to submit final written argument with no new evidence.
Okay, I agree. I make the motion.
Okay. Okay, and it's at
All on
5
the
p.m.
record.
for
Don't worry
all
about
on
it.
the record. It's on the record, and it's at 5 p.m. for both days. Correct.
On the
It's at-
21st and the 28th.
at 5
Okay.
p.m. Okay. Okay, so
Is everyone clear on the motion? And if there's a
Needs to be
second?
seconded. Need a second. Going once, going twice, need a second.
Misty, thank you very much. Okay, any
Not
further
100% sure what he
discussion?
said, but yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Any final discussion about, okay, the motion, it's been seconded. Okay, at this time, let's call the roll for a vote. Megan or John?
Yes. Madam Chair,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Kier,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Lambert,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes,
thank you. Commissioner Cutler is absent. Commissioner Stratton,
Yes.
thank you. And Commissioner Bugenhagen,
Yes,
thank you very much.
Great, passed unanimous. Terrific. So now we need to set a date to deliberate after these 2 dates have passed. So staff, do you have a date that we can have a hearing to deliberate on this? Would that be March 7th, or is that not appropriate? Staff?
That works for us. Jerry, is that appropriate?
well, March 7th would work if it's good for everyone. It would allow time for the planning commission to look at what's in the record. I mean, technically you could do it. Remember, we said that final arguments due at 5 p.m. on the 28th, and we'd convene on the 7th. If you felt that you had enough time to review the final argument, you could reconvene for deliberation on the 28th. But for many of you, that might be cutting it close. And so the 7th may be a better date.
I'll entertain a motion from anyone. If one of those sound better, that would give only 2 hours from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. to review the final argument, but we could do that on the 28th, or we can wait till March 7th. Would someone care to discuss or make a motion?
I'll move that we do it on the March the 7th. This is Terry. This will give ample time for staff to react if there is something else that comes up,
At
including
7 p.m.
Jerry.
At 7 p.m. on the 7th. Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
I would second it.
Okay, Shaylin beat you to it, Liz. Okay. Let's call the roll again.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Kier,
Yes.
Commissioner Lambert,
Sorry, yes.
no worries. Commissioner Skolnick,
yes,
Commissioner Stratton,
Yes.
Commissioner Bugenhagen,
Yes,
thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you all for meeting again, and also thanks to all for a meeting before, and especially for Terry Bugenhagen for chairing the last meeting and also making the motion. Okay, at this time, are there any planning commission concerns?
No Valentine's Day meetings.
That's right. No more Valentine's
noted.
Day.
Okay. This is Jerry Herbage again. I think for staff who's present here, I think it would be good. I think you were intending probably to do this anyway, but put online, if you would, the proceedings. So in case someone missed what went on tonight and didn't watch this virtually, that that online there's some instructions about where we are and the motions that were made by the planning commission. And from my standpoint, none of the parties can contact the planning commission members, but they can contact staff if they have a question and they're not quite understanding what happened. But anyway, I think this needs to get put online so that we're as transparent as possible.
We'll do that, Jerry. We'll get that done in the morning. So it'll be,
Thank you.
It'll be there, right, for everyone to see, in black and white
Great.
with dates.
Are there any other planning commission concerns? Is there anything else coming up in the near future besides finishing up this hearing? Nope.
Nothing that immediately comes to mind, but there's so much going on that it just is intuitively, it feels like any minute there can be something that'll come to you. As you know, as most of you know, a lot of stuff can be done administratively. Some things, of course, like zone changes, goal exceptions, automatically go to you. There are an awful lot of conditional uses that, especially if they're routine, we can handle without a commission meeting. But if any of them start rising to a like tonight's meeting, it's more than usual significance, then we do take it to you. So keep your powder dry. And one of the things that we were thinking about what just occurred, which was certainly innocent in terms of ex parte community, that maybe we ought to set up. We do have a number of new planning commissioners, and some of you have had to deal with like unbelievably complicated, big, huge projects like Scarlett, you guys, Misty, coming in at an odd time where we had anything but normal land use action. So maybe we should schedule some kind of additional training thing to go over some of these, real start from scratch. Jerry did an outstanding one of the, how long ago was that, Jerry, that you did it was before COVID, so it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But that might not be a bad idea. And I'll tell you, as many planning commission meetings I've gone to, and just like with what we just went through, it doesn't hurt to refresh ourselves about these procedural things in particular and how they play out. So we may be seeking to ask you to participate in something like that soon too.
Yeah. And I'd like to just point out that,
Sure.
in this case, the applicants also, there was a misstep there. And when people, as much as I really appreciate not having a lawyer involved that extends our meeting by another hour or so, these things happen, but, giving a little leeway when people come to us without representation, it's not an everyday thing compared to staff and council that deal with this all the time. So,
well, and they were very gracious about understanding that these circumstances occurred and providing the extra time. So it's all, it's all good. These things can get, and yes, we're bound by these. Once we're in a quasi judicial land use action like we are tonight, we sort of get, tracked on certain things have to happen in certain ways, and it's not. And sometimes that can feel counterintuitive. Like, why would it be a big deal to get this piece of information or that? And it is a big deal just because we're sort of locked into these. And actually, they make a lot of sense that we're all sort of track together on a certain path. So
Yeah.
that we may try to arrange that with you guys in a not too distant future.
Especially if something very big decides to start poking up, that would be a good idea to do it beforehand.
Yeah, well, on even routine stuff, you
Yeah.
know, if you get it wrong, you get it wrong, and then we got to do it all over again.
We want to avoid having to go to Luba and things like that.
Yeah, and I think we'd all enjoy it. Jerry did a tremendous job the last time, and it's interesting stuff. So thank you for making yourselves available when we do that as well.
Great. Okay, if there's nothing else, thanks again, everyone. Happy
Thank you.
Valentine's Day, and hope you can find some bubbly and chocolate somewhere. All right.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.